Hi, I'm Reva with Quality Sewing. I'm so glad that you're here with us. Today we are going to look at pressing versus ironing. What's the difference? Why would you do one over the other? Okay, so let's start with ironing. Ironing, I want to make sure I say the right one first. So ironing is taking something that exists and making it look pretty. Pressing is preparing and getting things set in stages. Okay, so you press as you create a project, you iron the finished project. Okay, so let's start. We're gonna iron first because I thought, hey, maybe some of you don't know this tip on how to iron a shirt. So the shirt that I have here has a back yoke. Let me hold it up a little bit better here. It has a back yoke. See, here's the yoke. It has a collar and it has cuffs. So this is something I learned years and years ago, probably back in the day when you had to press everything or iron everything. So when you have a shirt that has button-up shirt with the yoke and button plackets and all that, you start with the things that you can't get to very easily. So we're going to start by ironing the collar. Now, as we iron, we're going to iron things. This is a steam generation system, and it has this nice little cord here, and so I just blew off the condensation that was in there because it's been a while since I've had it on. But when you're ironing, you just want to make sure that you get everything looking really, really nice. Now, you may hear a little bit of a sound on this ironing system here because it does have a fan in the board, which really helps when you are ironing and pressing. So there's the cuff. That's beautiful now. And I'll go find my other one. I don't know about you, but I really dislike to iron. It's a kind of a chore. But if you do have the right equipment, it does go better, so I don't mind it so much anymore. Okay, so those look good. Then you can also do your sleeves. So you would take them in the underarm seam here, lay it flat, and I have my the little placket side up. Just make sure it's all nice and smooth, and then we can just iron this nice and flat. Okay, so you get that idea, right? Now here, let's talk. Of course, you would do the whole sleeve, obviously. Let's talk about the back placket right here, or the yoke. What you do to iron your yoke is to find the seam right there. And I have folded over, here's the seam line for the yoke. And I folded right on that yoke. And we're gonna just lay it right down so that the yoke is flat and the body of the shirt is underneath it. This is how you're going to be able to get into that yoke. Okay, so ironing is what we do to look nice when we leave the house, right? So now we have our cuffs look good, our collar looks good, all that looks good. So now we can go ahead and do the whole thing. So now if we were going to iron this now, I have the yoke up here nice and smooth, and then I have the rest of my messy shirt because it's been just out of the dryer, and then you can just come up. And I'm actually going to reverse my air on my board so it blows up a little bit, and that makes it even easier. But you probably iron something, and I'm getting all steamy. I'm so excited, all steamy. But that's how you iron, right? So we iron to look good before we leave the house. Now, let's talk about pressing. Pressing's a whole different thing. So let's talk specifically about doing quilting. Quilting, and then we're going to talk about garments too. But if you have your pieces, like I have 5-inch squares, and let me show you right on the board here. I have my pieces, and I've actually seamed them together. I have a seam right down there, my 1/4-inch seam. So when you're sewing or quilting, whenever you make a seam, you want to press your seam. You want to set your seam. So I'm going to come in here and just press. Now, pressing is just a set down and move motion. It is not like when we were ironing like this, right? So I'm just going to set my seam. A little bit of steam there is nice. Then we're going to open up our piece. I have one side that is light and one side that is dark. And I'm going to press to the dark side. Now the reason we press to the dark side is you really don't want, if you're using a light color fabric, you don't want the shadow of the seam to show through. So we've got this here. So everything's going to the dark side, so you can't see the shadow of the seam allowance. Now, when you're going to be pressing your seam to one side, flip it over. We've already said it. We flip it over. I'm going to just kind of smooth it and encourage it that direction, and then I'm going to set on it. And I'm going to give it a press. And then I have a really nice set seam right there. Okay. Now with this one, the next one, I'm going to do the same thing. Now it's cooled off quite a bit, so I'm going to just warm it up again, because then I can open it up and just gently encourage it that way. And then that kind of gets the fabric wanting to go that direction. Then I can hit it with some steam. And you want to make sure you press. This is pressing. What we did on the shirt is ironing. If we were to iron on this, and I'm really not putting much pressure on this, but we could distort the fibers, and that's going to be problematic when you are going to be using, when you need to take a unit like this. It's a diamond, it's a square, it's a triangle, and you need it to fit properly against something else later. If you iron it, the heat and then steam, if you add that, may cause it to distort and not be the shape that you cut it. Okay, so we want to make sure we do that. Now, another thing that I do, oh, it fell down, that's okay, is when I'm preparing to do a quilt, I will pre-press, not iron, pre-press my fabric, my yardage for my quilt. And I will spray it with Best Press, or something like that, Best Press or Flatter, either one of those. And those are a starch alternative, which means it doesn't have the sugars in it. So if you live in an area where bugs might be an issue, starches have just the nature of a starch. It has sweetness to it which feeds the bugs. That's why, you know, we don't want to do that. But if you use the starch alternatives like Best Press, it will make the fabric stiff, a little bit stiff, and then it doesn't have starch in it. But the reason why I do that is when I get out all those wrinkles that were from being on the bolt or in my drawer or wherever the fabric was, and then putting the spray on there, the liquid gets into the fibers, and then when you press it, it kind of locks those fibers together. So if you're working with something like a triangle, you're less likely to have the bias stretch as much, because the actual spray actually stabilizes those fibers together, locks them together, so they just don't stretch as much. So that's kind of cool. So anyhow, what we did here is we did press them to one side, and then you're going to follow the instructions of your quilt. If your quilt says, your instructions say to press all this way or whichever way that you're going, then just follow that. But if you don't know, then just err to the dark side. Okay, so then if we were going to put these together, this is where it gets really cool, because I have this seam allowance is going this way, this seam allowance is going that way, and so we have this little bump where the two join, and we can lock those into place, and then we can stitch this unit together. Now I have one I want to show you, and this is going to be kind of cool for you to see. This one, I locked my pieces together, and I'm going to put it over here a little bit so you can see it. I pressed my pieces. I set the seam like I showed you, then I opened them up and I pressed it the same way that I showed you. And this unit is really nice. And I'm going to go ahead and just press this open so you can see. Okay, so we take this one and I'm going to just open it up just a little bit, just kind of get that ready to go, and then I'm going to give it a nice press. Okay, so now I have a nice unit. All right, now I want to show you something on this one. This one, I didn't press these. I just finger pressed them, which meant when I opened them up, I just kind of flattened them down. Okay, but they match in the middle here, but I want you to see something. This was really interesting to me. Look at how much, can you see that? Whoops, that way. There we go. See how much is hanging over the edge there of the ivory? It's because this fabric wasn't pressed, so it wasn't open all the way. So I have a big difference. Let's put dark behind that. We have a big difference in the size of the square. These were all cut exactly the same size, but because I didn't press properly before I stitched them together, that's where I'm getting off. And you can see I'm even off on this side too, which may not seem like a big difference now, but if you're making a whole project, this little tiny bit off here and a little bit of tiny bit off here, between the two of them, it's probably 1/8 of an inch. No big deal. But when you have 10 blocks that need to be put together, 1/8 of an inch times 10 is going to be 5/4, so that's 1.25 inches. That's a lot of space that you're off. So it could be detrimental to your project if you don't have things pressed beautifully as you go. Okay, so that is pressing. If you are working with fabric that is delicate or maybe synthetic, so maybe you're doing a quilt with satin, or maybe you're working with a garment that's satin, or you're just pressing a pair of wool gabardine pants, any of those things. If you use a press cloth, what that does is that takes the friction and the heat from the direct of the sole plate as you're ironing your garment. This will take that and you won't get that shine on your pants. Okay, another thing you can do, here's a tip. What I do, I iron all my pants inside out, so that way if I oops on my fabric, I've oopsed on my fabrics on the inside, you never know. Don't tell anybody I told you that. Okay, so that is a good thing to have, is just a plain, nice piece of cotton that has no dye in it, is what is great for a press cloth. So I have this at my ironing board all the time. Then another thing that I have at my ironing board all the time is this little guy here. And then after I show you this, I want to show you some more on garments. But this is an OESD embroidery press cloth. And this thing looks like batting, doesn't it? It's kind of fluffy and thick like batting, but it's actually not batting. It is designed to press your embroidery designs. So if you've ever had an embroidery design that maybe is, it's pretty, but maybe it has a little bit of a pucker to it, you can use this press cloth. And how you do it is you don't put your embroidery down and put this on top. No, no, no. You put the press cloth down first, and then you put the design on upside down. And what that does is as you're pressing it, the thread is actually going down into the press cloth and is giving it a place for it to go. So again, I'm not ironing this, I'm pressing this because I don't want to distort my tree. Okay, now I am going to let it cool because, hey, it's warm and it might want to wiggle. So I'm going to just go and I want to talk to you about the garments, and then we'll come back and look at the tree. So while you're sewing garments, this is another thing that you want to make sure that you press as you go. So let's take a tight look in at this right here on this dress. So we have here, we have a seam line that comes up here, and then we have the shoulder seam, and then here's the back shaping as well here. And then we have a sleeve. So these ones, we all want all these intersections to lie very flat, and you also want them to meet up beautifully. But if you don't press them as you go, then you're never going to be able to get into that seam because they're tucked together. So if you don't press them while you go, you never ever can again. So yeah, so you're going to want to make sure that you press as you go, whether you're sewing for a garment or you're doing quilting. Okay, that's going to save you a lot. Okay, so let's take a look at our little tree and look at how beautiful that came out now. So those wrinkles that we had there are all gone. And if you probably can't see it here, you can a little bit, you can see the indentation that the tree made on this press cloth, and that just really helps give your projects that professional look and that beautiful look that we strive for. So try using the press cloth. Okay, the last thing I want to show you really quick, it's all about the same thing, but if you're doing half square triangles, you're doing squares, whatever you're working on, you're going to get your pieces to match better. They're going to come out the size you need them to be if you press as you go. And just make sure you give yourself a good tool. Find yourself a nice iron that has a good amount of steam, and then everything will be easier for you and you'll get a great look at the end. So I hope that's been helpful to know the difference between pressing and ironing. Remember, pressing something you do as you go because you're wanting everything as you're sewing. It's in the process. Ironing is something you do when you're completely finished and you just want it to look pretty. So make sure you use the right technique for the right occasion and your projects are going to be great.